Over the past few months, more than 100 top-tier scientists have quietly handed in their resignations to the Indian Space Research Organization. These exits include project directors for the LVM-3 rocket and mission managers who validated over 100,000 moon landing simulations for Chandrayaan-3. India is currently entering its most ambitious space phase to date, working toward a crewed human spaceflight program called Gaganyaan. To stem these departures, the Department of Space reached a breaking point on July 14, 2026, issuing an emergency internal memorandum. The memo immediately removed the authority of local center directors to approve routine resignations or voluntary retirements. Under the new protocol, any Group A scientific or technical staff member attempting to leave must have their request routed directly to the highest levels of the government for a final decision. The state has centralized control over every exit from the agency, freezing the current workforce in place. This indicates just how much pressure the private sector is now putting on ISRO's traditional structure. In 2020, India officially opened its space sector to private commercial companies. That policy shift brought hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital to domestic startups like Skyroot, Ognicool, and Pixel. This chart contrasts two compensation models. The flat line represents fixed government pay scales. The exponential curve shows the massive financial upside of private startups. Expanding this chart to track career velocity, public sector leadership requires decades, while startups tie rank directly to capability. Beyond the money, private firms operate without heavy red tape. They offer rapid execution cycles, freedom to build new propulsion systems, and satellites from scratch. Younger, highly ambitious engineers are capitalizing on this environment, stepping straight out of ISRO and directly into massive decision-making roles. Private space companies are offering a hyper-agile work culture that a traditional government bureaucracy simply cannot replicate. Inside ISRO, scientists balance the prestige of national service against the friction of public sector administration. High-profile missions like Chandrayaan and Gaganyaan demand absolute perfection. Working with a zero margin for error standard creates an intense environment, especially when complex engineering hurdles lead to highly scrutinized public delays. For the engineers carrying that workload, the rigid, seniority-based promotion structures offer very few avenues for immediate recognition or upward mobility. The weight of government hierarchy, combined with the mental fatigue of executing critical national missions, created the conditions for this mass departure. Mapping ISRO's workforce of 14,600 employees, the 100 recent exits represent a tiny fraction. Filtering these exits into the organizational hierarchy reveals they cluster at the very top of the pyramid. The real threat is losing the institutional knowledge held in these roles. ISRO's leadership considers a certain level of turnover normal, and the agency is in the final stages of recruiting 1,050 new personnel to backfill positions. But the July 14th internal memo is a temporary measure. True scientific innovation cannot be sustained through administrative captivity. To survive, ISRO will likely need to look towards the structural models already used by agencies like NASA and the European Space Agency. Those agencies maintain stability by blending a core group of permanent career government staff with highly paid, flexible contract teams hired specifically for individual projects. This exodus is the result of India's space economy outgrowing its purely public roots. To retain its best engineers, ISRO is being forced to choose: remain a traditional state agency or adopt the flexible labor models used by global peers.